NDTV has now accessed the first image of the suspected Delhi suicide bomber. This is a mega exclusive by NDTV. The very first image and a clear picture of Dr. Umar Mohammed, the man who is suspected of having been the suicide bomber in the Delhi Red Fort attack. Aditya, coming straight across to you, what more do we know about this man? Look at him, extremely young, obviously educated, somebody who was a medical student and now suspected of being a suicide bomber. What more do we know, Aditya?
Well, we know for sure that Dr. Umar Mohammed is the key to the Red Fort terror attack that happened yesterday, in which at least 9 to 10 people have been killed and 20 others are injured. He was associated with the Al Falah University. He was an accomplice of Muzammil Shakil as well as Adil Rathar, who were in fact arrested earlier from Saharanpur and Faridabad respectively, from UP as well as Haryana. Now this Umar Mohammed was a crucial part of the Jaish-e-Mohammed module in this entire terror conspiracy. When he noticed and he found that his accomplices, including Adil and Muzammil, was arrested, he escaped from Faridabad, and there's a CCTV footage of the entire track from Faridabad to Delhi. He reached the Red Fort area, and inside the parking he stayed for about 2.5 hours, and there perhaps he was in utter panic or shock, or was waiting for a command from his handlers to what the next steps really should be. And it does seem that this was not a planned attack, but this was an active desperation of somebody who was completely isolated when most of his accomplices were arrested. And that's why there were active intelligence inputs about some members who are on the run, and that's why the Delhi police and other agencies were actively perhaps looking for Umar Mohammed as well. But he kept his patience, stayed inside the parking for 2.5 hours, and then came out, and then within minutes there was a bombing that happened right behind me at the Subhash Chowk outside the Red Fort in the national capital. Umar Mohammed was the owner of this particular vehicle that he got from Tariq, and Tariq had got it from Amir. This is the first photograph that is coming out of Umar Mohammed, the crucial link to the Red Fort terror conspiracy. And apart from the Jaish-e-Mohammed angle and how Pakistani handlers were involved, and there were other important characters from the Kashmir Valley involved in radicalization and the entire chain, the investigators are now trying to also piece together evidence from the scene so that DNA testing can be organized with the family members of those who have been arrested and those who died here. If Umar Mohammed was alone or if there were other members, that needs to be investigated. As of now, top sources within the intelligence apparatus are telling me it does seem like that Umar Mohammed was alone in that particular vehicle. He did not know what to do next, and that's why triggered that particular blast. God forbid if the vehicle had entered the Lutyens zone near the government offices or other sensitive locations, it could have been a lot worse. There could have been many, many more casualties in this particular area. But this is first breaking here on NDTV. We are piecing together each and every aspect and evidence and source-based information that we are getting without jumping the gun. Factual reporting here on NDTV, what we are learning from J&K police, Delhi police and other agencies, including the IB, the NSG and the NIA, who are coming together for the first time in an unprecedented national level investigation on the Red Fort terror attack that has happened here. Unfortunately, a lot of lives being lost, but
this will be a very real concern in this time and age. The fact that young, educated professionals are getting radicalized in this fashion. Aditya yesterday, in fact, had also given details about how Irfan Ahmed, a cleric and the imam of a mosque, was supposed to be the kingpin of radicalizing these doctors. He was also linked to a most wanted terrorist, Zakir Musa, a man who was gunned down in 2019, and that these doctors have admitted to not just pasting posters supporting Jaish-e-Mohammed in Naugam, in Srinagar, but that they also treated some terrorists who had been injured in encounters. And this is a very real danger. Young, educated professionals who are increasingly being locally radicalized. Could they be lone wolves or be drawn into a larger terror conspiracy? And this man on your screen right now is only the latest example. 5 doctors who have been uncovered, who have been arrested over the last 24 hours, over the last 1 week, in a crackdown, a coordinated crackdown that has taken place on the Jaish-e-Mohammed module. mushrooming in different parts of the country, Shiv.
Padmaja, this is a very important aspect that you've just mentioned, because as Aditya and I and Vishnu have reported from J&K, in the aftermath of the Burhan Wani killing at the Hizbul Mujahideen crackdown, one of the big achievements and gains by the Indian security establishment had been on precisely what you're talking about, the ecosystem of recruitment of trained, educated youth in Jammu and Kashmir, and many successes had been achieved towards that. Now, this is not to say that all those gains have been lost, but this terror attack in Delhi, the arrests of multiple doctors, and I think it is reasonable for us to say that this is a module that is far larger than what is visible to us in front of us at this point of time. It most certainly couldn't have been perpetrated by 4 or 5 individuals. There has to have been a larger logistical base for this kind of thing. But if Umar Mohammed from Kashmir is the face of the attack, and he was indeed the man in the driver's seat of the car detonating that explosive, then you're right. I completely agree. This goes beyond just 10-11. This goes beyond just, whether this was one little module that's been linked to Faridabad. This is going to be something that the security grid, the Unified Command in Jammu and Kashmir, will have to look at very closely. I want to point out once again, Padmaja, that this is the first terror attack since the Pahalgam attack.
Yeah.
This is the first terror attack since then. The dynamics in the country have completely seen a sea change since then. Our rules of engagement as far as terror have completely changed. That's the big gorilla in the room that we're going to have to talk about at some point or the other. I think it's probably a good idea to wait maybe till the evening, till after Home Minister Amit Shah holds that big that big meeting with his intelligence and security officials. But the rules of engagement as far as a national response to this is something that we're not going to be able to ignore beyond a certain
I'm talking about the modus operandi. Correct me if you're wrong. And all of you have reported extensively from within the valley. After Burhan Wani, suddenly we'd seen a number of cases where, young boys, and we'd seen so many of these images, they were handed a pistol. There were reports that emerged that by way of taking them, by way of recruiting them into the terror outfits, they were told, take this pistol, go and shoot that CRPF man dead. Or, there were suddenly these attacks which were caught on camera of young boys with a weapon in their hand shooting somebody at close range. And that's when the entire grid cracked down. These people were identified, the Maulvis or the Maulanas who were involved in radicalizing them, they were picked up. And now it seems to have shifted. There is a sea change from the young, relatively poor, uneducated boys who were involved in stone pelting earlier, then are involved in the lone wolves attacks. Now we have these educated young men and women being drawn into the terror network.
In 45 minutes from now, Padmaja, and I'll bring Vishnu and Aditya in on this. Vishnu, to you first. The big high-level meeting at the Home Ministry chaired by Home Minister Amit Shah will obviously be looking at the specific aspects of what's in front of us. But obviously and necessarily, he will have to look at all of these aspects as well. The priority ladder will, of course, be dealing with what's in front of us. But all of these things that Padmaja and I have just mentioned cannot be ignored either, including rules of engagement post-Pahalgam.
No, Shiv, you've been very delicate in the way in which you're asking this question. I'll say it more bluntly. There have been several promises which have been made by our political leadership after the Pahalgam terror attack took place. The name Op Sindoor was given for a particular reason, for a particular sort of cause. And India has avowedly stated over and over again, the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the Defence Minister, others, that if there is a terror link from Pakistan, then India will retaliate. Now, that isn't to say that there's going to be some sort of a knee-jerk reaction, not least of all because the threads to the link in Pakistan is something which will need to be established through a great deal of interrogation, and that's a process which is obviously ongoing. But we do know that the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, or some of the other groups which we've been referring to are very clearly based out of Pakistan, and that there was always a sense that Op Sindoor was a response to the Pahalgam terror attack. It wasn't an end to terrorism by itself.